Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week, we're talking with Iron Hill Brewery. I am Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Mark Edelson, the VP of Beer and founding partner of Iron Hill Brewery. We're going to talk about brewing a ton of award-winning beers, Iron Hill's 25th anniversary, and their shiny new production brewery. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Mark, VP of Beer, I take it you got to choose your own title, am I right?
I did. It's a recent thing.
There you go.
Yes, it is a recent change. And, 25 years in, I said, I'm going to be the VP
I can
of Beer.
do this now. I can do this. I think, Brian, didn't your business cards used to say Director of Intoxicology?
Director of Intoxicology, yeah. Or Doctor of Intoxicology.
Doctor of Intoxicology.
Yeah, I believe it was Doctor. Either one works.
Fancy stuff. Well, Mark, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Should be a good time. We actually just went out to your Atlanta location. That's your newest location right now, correct?
It is.
Okay, we did. Brian's walking distance.
I seriously am. Yeah, you opened
Really?
it in my neighborhood. It's great. Yeah.
Okay.
So we went
That's
out
good to know.
this weekend. You had an Atlanta tap takeover with a lot of our local breweries here.
We
And
did.
kind of a cool thing. A lot of brew pubs and that, or breweries, they kind of, they move in and they kind of want to make their name. But you guys were pretty quick to welcome the locals, correct?
Absolutely. And, we're very event-driven as a brewery. We've been in business for 25 years, so we know how to do great brew pub events. And we always do ones that really embrace craft brewing in general, not just our own beers, but all of the local breweries that offer great beers. We originally did our Made in Delaware, because Delaware is where we were founded. And Alex, who's our brewer down there, when he got down there, he's like, I really want to do a Made in Atlanta. And I introduced him to Mitch Steele, who is a long-term friend of mine.
Okay, all right.
From way back. And I was you guys are so fortunate to have Mitch in the brewing community down there. And,
we've got Mitch Steele and Stan Hieronymus in Atlanta.
Yeah,
now.
we do.
You
So
do.
We got it, yes.
And last time I was down, I sat with Bob Townsend too.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys have some gems down there. And
Not a bad place to be.
No, not at all. And so I had dinner with Mitch and introduced him to Alex, and Alex started talking about this idea of doing it. And Mitch is like, I can introduce you to everybody, and let's do this. And so and that's how it got started so quickly, with us having just opened right at the new year.
I think that's the first event that I've gone to in probably a year where, the biggest thing I miss out of all of this, Mark, is just seeing your friends that you see out at all these events and that.
Oh, yeah.
And,
absolutely.
So we've done a couple things kind of masked up and socially distant and all that. But this was the first one. We saw a lot of our brewer friends and other friends out there. And, of course, we got to meet Alex and Sam and the crew there. Alex, an old friend of Brian's since he pops over there. So
Yeah.
but,
I'm in there, frequently. He's like,
That's
oh, you're
what I
back?
hear.
Yeah.
and also did you guys had a special beer you did for it, the Hammer and Hank that you put on.
Yes, the Czech Pills.
Yeah.
Home Run Hank, I believe.
Home Run Hank.
Yeah,
Home Run Hank.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so that was a good time.
It's actually a charitable beer. A portion of the proceeds, I understand, were donated to the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta. So
Absolutely.
for a good
That's
cause,
cool.
too. And just very cool,
You can drink beer and do good, and
Exactly.
who doesn't want to do that, right?
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you guys had it, and I have not. So you can tell me all about it.
You should have come to Atlanta,
Yeah,
Mark.
you
You
I
should have
know,
They're fun.
I know.
next time.
Yes,
Sure
next
enough.
time.
They ought to send you, can some up and send it to you,
Yeah, I know.
Good stuff.
Now, is that a beer that you had come up with the recipe for, or was that one that they specifically came up for down here?
Alex put the recipe together. We do a lot of very traditional styles, and so that was kind of his spin. It was not a company recipe, but certainly we've brewed Czech Pilsners before, so he takes a lot of learnings from stuff we've done before and kind of looks into it and puts his own spin on it.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Tim, I think it's time for us to get into the beers of the week.
Now it's time for our Beers of the Week. Brought to you by The Nest, craft beer and barbecue in downtown Kennesaw, Georgia. TheNestKennesaw.com.
Brian, as always, you may have heard this before. We've got a lot of great beers to get into this
really?
week, but
okay.
We want to thank The Nest for sponsoring this event. Brian, it's patio season here.
It is.
And you go out, we have a short patio season because we're kind of in pollen season, but the window between patio, pollen, and 100-degree temperatures, you got to take advantage of it while you can.
It's about 3 minutes long.
So get out there and see that gorgeous patio at The Nest, get you some barbecue and craft beer. But we are drinking, Brian, we pre-gamed with one. We experiment with non-alcoholic beers just because we call it the doctor's orders segment.
Oh, yeah.
Because the doctor told me to watch alcohol. I don't have to quit, thankfully. But we tried one from Partake as our pre-game beer, Partake Blonde. What'd you think of that, Brian?
I thought it was pretty good for non-alcoholic.
Right?
Yeah, drinkable. I've had some that I have them and I'm like, I really never want to have this again. This was it has a little bit of that warty flavor. It was really light,
right,
but drinkable. It's pretty enjoyable.
It was.
I'm all right with it.
You know, there's only a few that I've had that I would say, hey, this could totally substitute for regular beer for me. But there's been a few that if I absolutely could not have alcohol for one reason or another, that would still fit the bill.
Sure.
Mark, have you guys ever done any NA beers?
We have not. We carry them. There's a lot of great beers out there that kind of complement it, but we have not made an NA beer yet.
Okay. And of course, Brian, we're going to get into these Iron Hill beers. We actually are into their homestead right now, which is a farmhouse ale with orange pills, grains of paradise, and coriander. And Brian, I believe this is one of your favorites that you've had there.
Yes.
Dankonia.
That's right.
Northeast IPA. So we've got some of that to get into and a few others that we'll see what goes on. But Brian, why don't you tell us what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, good news for people who have been vaccinated. Sam Adams is buying a beer for people who post vaccination proof on social media. That was starting as of Monday, this last Monday, April 12th. If you post your vaccination sticker or a bandage to Twitter or Instagram and tag Sam Adams with the appropriate hashtag, you may be the recipient of $7 via Cash App to buy yourself a beer when you're next at a bar. And that's basically it. So the promotion runs until May 15th. For all details, go to samadams.com/shotforsam. So kind of a cool idea.
There's been a few places that are doing things for it. Here in Atlanta, Monday Night Brewing, if you show proof of vaccination, they're giving you a case or a 12-pack of their Narwater seltzer.
Oh, that's right. I knew I'd seen
So,
another place.
yeah.
I think Krispy Kreme is doing something like that too. So.
Like a donut donuts for a year or something like that.
Something like that. I didn't read into it, but I've seen it happen a few times. I'm like, this is pretty cool. This is a good way to encourage people to go out and do something.
Donuts and beer, man.
Like
Donuts
if you're
and
on
beer.
the fence, I'm like, well, you can get a beer and you can get some donuts. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
I'm in. Let's do it.
So if you have a lazy dog at home that isn't pulling its weight, I've got some more good news. Busch wants to put your pup to work as its official dog brew tester. And if your dog makes the cut, your furry chief tasting officer will bring in a respectable $20,000 an annual salary. So that's pretty crazy. Of course, Fido won't actually be tasting beer, which is not great for canine health. The beverage is actually a non-alcoholic bone broth beverage. Say that really fast. That's said to promote digestive dog health. Your dog's application process is also pretty straightforward. Just post a picture of your dog with the hashtag Busch CTO contest, and the contest runs through April 28th. So want to get on that quickly if you want to put your dog to work.
Is this a product they're actually making?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Apparently, this beer has been out there for a year, and I think they're just trying to promote it, get people aware of it, and move it out there. So it's kind of amusing. So
okay.
yeah,
Dog beers,
and you can make some money. Your dog can make you some money. So
there
that's
you
pretty
go.
cool. Tim is always talking about his love for cave-aged cheese. Well, this week we learned about a 100% cave-aged, spontaneously fermented beer that was a collaboration, and it's being released. The collaboration was between Rough House Brewing and Jester King, and it has been fermenting in an underground limestone cave for a little over a year. The beer is an homage to the natural spaces of Texas, and apparently all the ingredients come from that state. And it marks the very beginning of a series that is supposed to be 100% cave-aged and spontaneously fermented, so there will be more of these beers. So ISO, Tim.
I bet that would go nice with the cave-aged cheese.
I think it probably would.
Should be pretty darn
I'm
good.
intrigued by what kind of interesting microbes you're going to get from a limestone cave. I don't think anybody's done anything like that anywhere, as far as I know.
Weren't caves kind of the place you aged your beers, though, back in the day?
Yeah, but those were not intentionally spontaneously fermented, but I guess they would have been. But I think that's way before my time. So
Either way, I'd love to try it.
Yeah,
It'd be
for
a good
sure.
time. Yeah. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Iron Hill Brewery.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Your revolution is over, Mr. Lebowski. Condolences, the bomb's lost.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to Iron Hill Brewery.
Well, Mark, we're going to ask a question. We ask everybody, but it's just kind of fun to hear. How did Iron Hill Brewery get its start?
How did we get our start? So I have two partners, Kevin Finn and Kevin Davies. Kevin Finn and I were friends for many years. We played soccer together, right? And we became homebrewers together. His wife bought him a homebrew kit to keep him. Well, she wasn't his wife at the time, right? It was a girlfriend, and they lived remote, and she needed a way to keep us from going out drinking all the time. And so she bought him a homebrew kit, and that's what we did. We started homebrewing, and and this was in the late '80s, right? And so back when people were starting to pass homebrew laws, states were passing homebrew laws, and homebrewing really started to take off, and we loved what we were doing as homebrewers, like many. I mean, it starts. You've heard the story a lot, I'm sure, and so we won awards at the homebrew competitions of the time, and we both hated our jobs and said, "Why don't we give this a run?" And we decided that we wanted to get into the brew pub side of it, and realized that we needed to get somebody who knew something about restaurants, and we a mutual friend introduced us to our third partner, Kevin Davies, who was trying to do the same thing. He was a restaurateur in the Delaware area for many years, and put us together. And within 2 years, we opened the first Iron Hill in Newark, Delaware.
So, did you have any plans at the time to be what Iron Hill Brewery is today?
We get asked that question a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that at first we realized that one restaurant wasn't going to support us three knuckleheads, right? And that we needed to do something, right? And so we quickly started having. I mean, we opened the second location within 2 years of the first one. So it's such a whirlwind when you do these things. It's hard to remember everything you thought about, but we certainly must have been thinking about it a little bit, because we opened so quickly. And then within another 2 years, we opened our third one, and then we just kept going with that.
With the growth that way, do you get much of a chance to brew anymore, or are you pretty much just managing everything?
People make fun of me, right? They're like, "When was the last time you ever brewed?" Right?
Right, sure.
Like, now, you know what I do? I do these collaborations, right? And these days, and we do a big collaboration up in Philadelphia for Philly Beer Week, right? And so it's all of us that started around the same time, around 1996, and we did not do it last year, but it's called Brotherly Suds, right? And so we get together, all of us that have been in the business for so long, and at this point, there's guys in the brewery we do the formulation weeks before, and then we sit there and we enjoy each other's company and drink beer. And
that's the way you do it.
Bill Kovaleski from Victor, he goes, this is the one day a year we actually do what everybody thinks we do all year long, which is sit around and drink beer all day, right? And so everyone assumes that's what brewers do, right? And so, but that's what we get to do. So I would say that I was the first brewer in the first Iron Hill, and brewed a lot, and it was, you would brew, and then we would go work the manager shifts in the restaurant, right? And,
right.
that's what you did at the time. And so, yeah, but it's been a while since I've by myself been in brew. I did something last year, right before the pandemic hit. We did this thing, our marketing people called Brew with a Legend, right? So I guess I'm the legend. And so we ran a homebrew competition.
I remember that.
And,
Yeah.
and we picked 5 from 5 different regions of where we have restaurants. And the winner, so we did the judging of all the homebrews submitted, and then they got to brew, the 5 got to brew on a system, and then I would go in and brew with them, and we'd have the local brewer there as well. So
Okay.
that was, I did put on some coveralls, right? It's been a long time since I did that.
Yeah.
I had to get a new size of them, right?
Why do these not fit anymore?
That's right. What happened? Now, do you miss the days where you were just brewing, or are you?
Well, you move. I do in that when I smell the wort boiling, right, and that distinctive smell, and I'm like, boy, I do miss a little simpler times, right? But what my partners and I do now, we're part of building an organization, and at some point, you get a lot of enjoyment out of brewing an organization where you get to let people help grow your business. And so that's kind of what we do.
Right. That's I had someone ask me just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the radio show, and they said, why didn't you just start a brewery? Why go this route? And I'm like, man, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Brewing is a lot of work. So Brian and I have
work.
That's a young athletic man's game.
Sure. Because a lot of people that
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people that want to start their breweries don't realize that Saturday you're spending in your garage with your buddies making 5 gallons of beer is nothing like that 40 barrel batch, that you make there. So, and Brian and I found out that the hard way.
People ask me, do you still homebrew? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
right? The day you start professionally brewing, your wife will be like, you're not doing that at home.
No.
Right?
And we've talked to some people that are just not even interested. I'm like, I do this all day. Why would I go home and do this? I need some time to decompress,
I think it's some of the younger guys that are breaking away from it. Like I have a friend that's worked his way up into a brewmaster position, and he enjoys brewing. And he mentioned, he's like, yeah, I miss it. And he's trying to get on their pilot brewery, to go out and do some of the experimental stuff and that to get some brewing in there.
What he really wants to do is play at work.
Sure, that's it. He's like, this work is too much work now,
exactly.
man.
Let me do the playing
brewing
stuff. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah.
But what you do is, still involved. I used to always be heavily, even outside of the brewery, it was always heavily involved in every formulation. And now I have trouble letting go of that stuff, but not in the last 10 years. I have a lot of faith in our crew and the stuff they do, but I love getting involved in, we have our 25th anniversary is this year and coming up late. And so the anniversary beers, I get to be heavily involved with. So I'm getting excited about this one.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
And Mark, you mentioned that, you were on the board of the Brewers Association for about 10 years, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So when were you on the board there? When was that?
In 2006, my first meeting, they said, "Hey, we're gonna work on something right now. It's called the craft beer definition."
Oh boy!
Oh wow!
Oh God!
Yes,
right?
better write that in pencil.
That was the very first meeting that I attended, and then from there. So and in the very end of that 10 years was about when Charlie was starting to talk seriously about retiring. So
okay,
it was great.
Yeah.
I was just a brew pub guy, right? I was a brew pub rep, but I was on the board with who were my heroes, right? Ken Grossman, Kim Jordan, Jim Cook from Boston Beer.
Sure.
I look around the room and everybody around the room, and I was just in awe of that. All the smart people that founded, that generation of craft brewing were all in one room.
That'd be amazing.
That's amazing.
Just to sit in on. Yeah,
absolutely.
I went to, talking about just kind of the history of what those guys, went through to get beer to where it is today. And I visited the Sierra Nevada location in North Carolina, and they've got some of the section there. They've kind of got it set up as mini museum history pieces.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see, you know, this stuff from back in the day. And I think Charlie Papazian's, I think his original brew book and mash paddle are in the Smithsonian.
The Smithsonian, yeah, they are. I believe so.
So
Sure.
brewing's important stuff.
Could you imagine? Just thinking about that as a guy who's home brewing. Someday in the future, this will be in a museum.
Yeah, who would have thunk?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy stuff.
Jack Joyce from Rogue was on the board. I mean, just the legends, right? And
that'd be
I
awesome.
learned so much from them.
Around all these great people. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Iron Hill Brewery.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, KFIR 720 AM in Albany and Salem, Oregon. Catch Beer Guys Radio on KFIR every Sunday at 5 a.m. local time. Now let's get back to Iron Hill Brewery.
Mark, just before we went to break, we talked a little bit about your time at the Brewers Association and the defining craft beer. What a task, right? So
It was.
as issues go on, as brewing changes, I know, you know, everything changes, but what do you think some of the biggest issues facing brewers today is?
Boy, as we just got onto retail ourselves, certainly shelf space, right? The proliferation of so many beers out there and so many choices. And trying to find shelf space and stand out, you know? I mean, we're 8,000 plus, right, breweries now. And the amount of beer that's out there, and there's a lot of great beer out there, it's becoming such a crowded space.
It's really difficult to stand out in that forest of beer. I mean, unless you really do something phenomenal, it's tough.
Right.
It's challenging.
You know, what do you do? You know, is it the label? Is it, your social media? Is it, what's the edge that you get so that you can at least get in the glass, right?
You know, and it got to the point here in Atlanta, we've been spoiled, and I think a lot of places have through the pandemic, probably got more distribution from other states because people wanted to get beer out as much as possible. So,
sure,
but it's getting to the point.
Here's the thing that happened during it. It's a disadvantage of some of the small brewers, right? Or newer brewers. Because I heard this from friends. We were not in retail pre-pandemic. We realized that, off-premise takeout beer was great for us. And so, but some of the smaller breweries, when you couldn't go in to make purchases in some of the liquor stores and you had to decide before you walked up what you were going to get, the walking past that case to see the small little brewery in there, you're not going to get to do. So you're going with the old standards. You're going to grab Sierra Nevada. You're going to grab a New Belgium. You're going to grab a Sam Adams, right? And so that really puts some breweries to a disadvantage in the general liquor store,
We even had some cases where like really well-known brands would come into Georgia and you didn't even know it. And there was a time, probably 2 or 3 years ago, that if any big brand came in, it would have been all over the forums, all over the beer news now.
Lines and everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's been brands that I don't find out they're in the state until I'm at the bottle shop. I'm like, oh, when did we start getting Bissell Brothers, or stuff like that. So,
and we've had a few that have kind of snuck in. So you're like, is this here legit, or is this something sly that kind of snuck in the back door?
Bootleg there.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
So.
Really, Brian?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you said no?
No.
Mark, I guess we'll talk about something else in Brian's.
You know what I was going to do? Sorry.
I don't know what you were going to do. Neither do you, apparently. So,
I completely brain farted.
We'll give you a 5, 4, 3.
So we just opened up the next growler of Dankonia. This is one that's, I think it's my personal favorite of the beers that I've had from Iron Hill, having ventured over to the one in my neighborhood quite a bit. Tell us a little bit about this. How did this come to be?
So it's a New England style IPA, right? And look, I'm a traditionalist, right? So as you can imagine, as our young brewers are like, let's make hazy, cloudy beer.
Oh boy.
IPA says like, oh God, no, right? Why would we do that? Right? Who would do? Beer is beautiful, right? And so other than Hefeweizen and a couple of things, we should be clear. But these beers are wonderful. And I said, when we're going to get into this, we're going to do it right. They're not going to drop clear in a week, right? We're going to research and see what some of the better ones are doing and do that. And so we make fantastic, Northeastern New England style IPAs. This one in particular, though, most of our New England IPAs, we use the Voss Kevik yeast, which is not what everybody generally tends to use, but it works. We feel it works. It's a Norwegian yeast, and it works wonderful because it gives its own character of an orange citrusy, which goes so great with the hops that you're normally going to use in this style of IPA. But this one is very heavily hopped with Mosaic and Galaxy hops, right? And right, you get the dankness from that, thus the name, and that pineapple and that huge citrus in it. And it is so aromatic. I wish your producer could try some, but
wouldn't that be great if No Mike Nate
We're
could
gonna
get
make
some?
him.
Yeah.
We're gonna make. See, No Mike Nate has sworn off. Yeah, so No Mike Nate has sworn off alcohol. He's trying to trim up. So cheers to him. Props to him. But he did for Mark. He
Take
took
a
little
sip.
sip of
He did.
Danko.
He
Awesome.
did. Yeah.
Is this No Mike Nate approved? We got the
It has
thumbs
a
up
thumbs
there,
up.
man.
All
We're
right,
good
all
to
right.
go.
All right. And so Eric, who's our brewer in Greenville, South Carolina, actually, this is his recipe. And when I first came up to it, it was like, wow, what? This is terrific, right? And as you know, and this is my Mitch story, Galaxy hops are at such a premium, right? And we have a very limited amount of Galaxy hops under contract that we use. And so, in fact, everybody used to get to brew this once a year, right? And everybody loved brewing it. And they got one box of hops, each restaurant, and that's all they could do, right? And so I was just down, I said, in January with Alex after we opened, and invited Mitch over for dinner. And we're sitting there talking. We're talking about hops and contract. And I said, God, I just wish I could get a hold of some Galaxy, right? He goes, oh, I got a ton of it in Virginia Beach if you want to buy it. And I was like, how much? And he told me how much. I'm like, okay. I'm like, did I say that too fast?
Sure. Dang it, I could have haggled there. I could have haggled. So
I'll take every pound of it, right? And so Iron Hill gets to brew Dankonia IPA in 2021 all year long, right?
That's awesome.
That's
Good
great.
stuff.
Yes, it's great.
No.
So
Working out for us.
I forget the name of it. There's a website that's made for breweries to sell hops. That's a popular one, correct? And I remember some of the brewers complaining about prices just being like ridiculous, like just ridiculous that people were asking these kind of prices for things.
Yeah.
Weren't they getting better deals going to homebrew shops and buying hops that way?
Right, in little sacks, right?
Right.
Bags.
1 ounce packages.
How many of those do you have?
Absolutely. It gets so outrageous because you put it on an electronic forum and the price just gets driven up. And I will tell you that Mitch sold it to us at the price he paid. And that was why I said it so fast, right? I was like, I'll take it all.
Mitch is like, I've got Galaxy. You're like, of course you do, Mitch. Of course you do, right?
So was it tasting the beer? Was that what made you a convert to the whole hazy New England IPA thing? Or was it just kind of like, I need to get on board with this because it's not going away kind of situation?
I really started drinking them. And then I realized the attractiveness of it, right? I mean, we had gone through 15 years of how much you can get of IBUs into a beer, right?
Oh yeah.
I've got 100 IBU beer, right? And you could only enjoy hops by getting kicked in the teeth with bitterness, right? And
Yes.
I feel like that this was the reaction to that hops have something to say other than bitterness, and we're actually going to take that out completely of the equation and do this. So they're soft and they're wonderful and flavorful, and I have to admit, I fell in love with the flavors of them, and they were the subtle, just rest from the traditional IPAs that we were all drinking for way too long.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's not just a total tropical bomb either, Mark. It's got, sure. There's a little danky pine kind of riding in the background there. So, and then the citrus, you get nice citrus and tropical fruits. So
it's really
I love
well
the
done.
profile on this. Yeah, that's really
and
nice.
The beauty of this, because some New Englands tend to be a little too sweet, I think, and this particular yeast really dries it out. We do it at a higher temperature, so it really takes down the sugar level and kind of dries it out a little bit. And I just think it makes these beers better.
So if you've been experimenting with the Quake yeast at all, since you used it a fair amount, have you stressed it out any? Because I'm always curious to hear about.
We let it free ride, right?
Okay.
On the temperature wise, just go.
How
right?
hot does it get?
We're in Celsius, so we get up to about 26 Celsius, right? So that gets way up.
Is that 95? Is
that
100?
Mm-hmm.
It's some number up there.
Yeah, yes. 400 degrees,
probably around 400.
And it seems to stay happy.
I've played with Saison yeast. I think we pushed our Saison homebrew up to 90.
About 90, but we wanted some
still
interesting.
got great results. Just a really tasty beer. That's another thing. A lot of breweries, especially homebrewers, are playing with Saisons or Kvike yeast because of the flexibility you have with temperature there. So,
and I think we wanted the interesting character that came out at higher temperatures out of that specifically.
Right.
And it did work out well for us.
Yep. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Iron Hill Brewery.
I listened.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Iron Hill Brewery.
Mark, we would like to talk to you about reading up on this, man. This is super impressive. Did I see you had a 20-plus year run of winning medals at the Great American Beer Festival?
We did. It's
man, that is congratulations. That's extremely impressive.
Fantastic.
So,
it's
in the first year we opened, you sit down and you set some goals. And I said, someday I want to win a medal at the Great American Beer Festival. And we went out the first year, and our Munich Helles won a gold medal, right? And we won for 21 years straight after that.
Wow.
Mission accomplished.
So
right?
after that,
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So after that, you're like, well, what do we do now? Like you're like the child star on TV. I'm like, like your career peaked early. It didn't though.
Right?
It turns out it
didn't.
But
and it was a lot, and it was across a wide variety of styles. We won in the early days for sours. I liked being up on the stage ahead of New Belgium for sour beer medal.
There you go.
Yeah, you're like, wow. Peter's there, and you're above this. He's been trained in Belgium and sour beers, and you're on the platform ahead of him, and you're like, he's got to be really pissed.
You got to get up there and fist bump Charlie Papazian, right?
Yep. Oh yes, year after year. So. But yeah, it's a great testament to what our brewers do in terms of quality.
Do you have any idea about how many medals you've actually won in total at this point in time? Because I've heard a big number, but I'm not sure if it's true.
It is a big number. Between the World Beer Cup and the Great American Beer Festival, it's in the 70s.
It's in the 70s.
That's impressive.
That's about what I heard.
I wonder if anyone's broke 100, because that's a lot of medals. I mean, that's a lot of medals to win.
Well,
sure.
Maybe.
See, I got snarky here when we've got like 6 or 8 for homebrew. And someone was joking around something and just being a total jerk. I put on all of our medals and took a picture. And so I sent them looking like a Middle Eastern general here with all these medals hanging off of me. So
Got it. At least you weren't naked with them on. Right?
I did not say that. I can neither confirm or deny that.
He didn't say anything about clothing.
I just said I put the medals on.
My guess is if Tim took the one picture, he probably got disrobed and took the other picture for private enjoyment.
This is hanging in my office for me to see there. So yeah, good stuff. Yeah, and also 25th anniversary is this November. Is that right?
That's correct. 25 years.
Now, I got a question kind of to back into something a little bit. We talk a lot about 90s brew pubs. Big thing then. The 90s were a big brew pub boom here. And unfortunately, I remember going to places like John Harvard's. There was one called Hops that was popular.
Rock Bottom,
Rock
a lot
Bottom.
of places.
But
Gordon Biersch even kind of disappeared.
You notice
recently?
something about all these places we're saying, Mark. They're not around, most of them anymore. So
they are not.
What set Iron Hill apart to have that staying power through all these changes in the industry?
Of course, it's always making great beer, but I think a lot of brew pubs did. But this is the thing, and I'm going to say, unfortunately, because I think it still exists. Brew pubs were never known for their food, right? It was always a focus on beer, and we wanted to make sure that if the brewery were to close, we still would be a great restaurant, right? And we focused on hospitality and restaurant and service and the beer as well, and people always looked at us as, because restaurants, even through pandemic, restaurants survive, right? And so, we're social society, and people like to go out and enjoy it, and so. That was very important to us, and that really, I think, is what catapulted us. And I think, unfortunately, that still exists out there. That it's mediocre food, and and I think with the proliferation of tasting rooms, right, which now are considered brew pubs by everybody, right?
Pretty much.
The terrible food continues, right? I'm not going to say it. It's food trucks, and just because Food Network has great food trucks doesn't mean a food truck has great food, right?
And they're too expensive now, too, Mark. Food trucks are crazy now.
They've used Food Network as the justification to overcharge for
Yeah.
They are pricier than sit-down places.
Sure.
You have to stand outside of a truck in the heat to pick up food that is more expensive than sitting down in a nice restaurant to get the same kind of food. It's a little nuts.
We can verify, though, talking about the food, we had if you guys go, those listening, if you go to Iron Hill, you got to get the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. And,
absolutely.
And I got a pro tip this weekend, Mark, that I hadn't got before, that you take your egg roll and you dip it in your sauce, and then there's a garnish of green onion dices on the plate.
Yep.
And you use your sauce like a glue to grab some green onions there, man. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. So
secret to the dish. Yeah.
And I tell you, we were unsure how Philly cheesesteak egg rolls would go over in the South, right?
Amazingly, that's how.
Amazingly, right? They're like, oh, we love Philly too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's meat and cheese and fried.
Exactly.
So we're on board.
All the essential elements.
Right. I had a fella that worked for me one time he was a triathlete, and we went out somewhere, and he was from Philadelphia and moved down here, and we went to lunch someplace, and they had batter fried artichoke hearts.
I'm down with that.
And we ordered some, and we're sitting there. I'm like, do you want some? He's like, no. He's like, I can't believe you guys will fry anything here. He's like, these are healthy, and you're battering them and frying them. I'm like, yes, we will do that. This is a true statement.
And I was immediately on board with that.
Yes, yeah, count me in.
So the 25th anniversary, we should talk about this. It's coming up in November, correct? What are your plans? What's going to happen?
Well, we're going to do, we do a little something every 25th of the month this year, right? But what we're really planning on is our 25th anniversary beer, which is coming up, right? And so what we're planning, and look, I don't think anybody knows this in the media, so this will be our first little sneak.
All right.
This is it, guys.
Breaking news.
I'm giving it to you.
All right.
So we have one beer that is still an OG recipe, right? day one recipe, and it's one that I made called our Pig Iron Porter, which is a London style porter. Right? It's the only beer on tap that is still original and has been for 25 years. We're going to do an imperial version of that as our 25th beer, right?
Okay,
And,
awesome.
which is going to be available. And then we're going to get some cool barrels and do some barrel aging of that. And I'm going to say that we probably have our hands on some Utopias barrels that might find.
Okay.
So,
Utopias barrel aged
yes.
Imperial Porter, huh?
I'm excited already.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't
Now
wait.
the internal, so Pig Iron Porter is the name of the porter. The internal name of this beer right now is called Big Pig, but our marketing department wishes to find a better name for that. But it might stick because it's just what's being used around the brewery to refer to it right now. We have the first batch of it is in one of our smaller fermenters here in the big brewery. Just brewed it last week, so that'll finish out, and then we'll find some barrels to get it into and let it sit for the rest of the year, and have a lot of fun with it.
You should make it a mission, like almost a political movement. Like I stand with Big Pig. Like
Stand with Big Pig.
Get buttons made and such. So just really go all out.
Or have a naming contest. Have people try to
Yeah,
throw out there.
yep, absolutely.
And
That gets dangerous sometimes.
Yeah. This is Porter McPorter
Porter
face.
McPorter face, right?
I was gonna say super sour golden super sow or golden swine, one of the two. But yeah, 25 would be silver,
I
so it'd be
stand with
silver.
Big Pig.
Silver swine. 25th anniversary is a silver anniversary,
Team
right?
Big Pig.
Yep.
I think that's
Yes,
right.
it is.
The silver swine. Yeah. Anyway.
I think we've outvoted Brian already.
We
so
have,
we'll see
yeah.
what goes
My
on
ideas are always outvoted.
there. Yes,
Fine.
yeah. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate you taking the time, sitting down to talk with us. If folks want to know what is going on with Iron Hill Brewery, what is the best place for them to go to find out?
Go to our website, right, ironhillbrewery.com, and then you can see all our social media tags there as well.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Great.
Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with Red Top Brew House. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.